to the RunRX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome to the RunRX podcast. I have Valerie with me today, and we're going to talk about heart rate. That's one of our favorite subjects because when people start coming through the group, and it's interesting because they'll start to learn how to fall and how to run correctly, and suddenly they're no longer using muscle, right? They're not using, it doesn't feel hard, but suddenly their breathing goes up, their heart rate goes up, and we immediately, I think it's like week 2 or week 3, we immediately get people freaking out and saying, I'm going to die. My heart rate was like over 200, Valerie. So what is that about? And how do we work on that mindset of I'm going to die?
Well, first of all, we are using all of our muscles when we run. And this is a big conversation because the heart is a muscle too. And so what we want to make sure people understand is that most people come into RunRX and they've been running with their musculoskeletal system, meaning they've been using active muscle contractions to try to move. So like reaching with their feet or pushing off the back or
and their quads,
using
right?
It's not the actual muscle, it's the action. You see, they're trying to run with action.
Okay.
So they're trying to move using muscles, and guys, muscles respond to movement. So once we shift that mindset, so what that means is for a lot of people, the effort they're putting in the run hasn't been cardiovascular. It's been more like weightlifting effort. I'm reaching and I'm pushing and my legs are tired and heavy and my muscles are fatigued because I'm trying to use muscles to move. And if you kind of think about if you have a little kid throwing a tantrum, I like this example, and you pick them up off the ground and they're still moving their arms and legs, where are they going? They're not going anywhere, right? But they're using a lot of energy. That's how you've been running.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so then here you come into us and we say to you, you have to let go of all of that action. And then all of a sudden you start to learn to use gravity and let your muscles respond in your run. And guess what muscle responds the most?
The heart?
The heart.
The heart.
It's finally oh, I'm awake now, you see? So then you start to run using your cardiovascular system. And yes, in the beginning, it's shocking because I have not felt my heart rate go up. I have not felt that need to breathe in a different way. All of a sudden now I'm oh, my heart rate's up. And then you panic because your heart rate's up, your breathing goes up. So all of those kind of panic signals come in.
Yeah, you start feeling in your, I've talked about this before when we've worked out, that all of a sudden I'll feel like my heart is going to come out of my chest, right?
Right.
And I usually have to take a deep breath, I just breathe deeper, right? And realize that's just, the more fearful I am that I'm going to die, right? The more the heart's going to pound. So it's just going to become a never-ending cycle.
Right. And the reality is when you learn to run more efficiently, your heart rate will actually drop by up to 10%.
Okay.
So if you really do our program correctly, and the way we start everybody, by the way, is with a practice in a short interval. I mean short, like your driveway short. And you start repeating those because every time you do run, you're going to be running. Because see, running is free falling. But for most people, running is like putting one foot in front of the other. For most people, running is pounding the pavement. So all of a sudden, I'm changing your mindset. You're changing how you move. Get a new relationship with your cardio system. That's kind of the fun as well. And all of us, by the way, here's the really good news. You will improve in your cardiovascular because you're not going to use it. And I promise it will come back down.
Yeah.
None of us can maintain a high heart rate for any length of time. None of us. So what happens instead is you start to, like you said, work through your feelings. Oh, I've never felt my heart rate go up. Oh, actually, I'm okay. I just had to slow down a little. I just had to breathe more. Now you're working with your body.
Yeah, because I was going to say a lot of times, and we've talked about breathing in past episodes, but just to kind of reiterate that, guys, that we don't breathe deep enough. We breathe very shallowly. And so our heart rate's getting up and we're getting all panicked and we're hyperventilating almost. So if you can stop and like you said, take a nice deep, all the way from the bottom of your rib cage breath and when I'm working out with Valerie, she's always going, breathe, make some noise. Really. And if you're really running correctly, you're going to find a pattern to even your breath, right? You've said that before
And then that's another skill that we work on because guys, if you watch the elite runners, even the sprinters, look how relaxed their face is, right? We don't see them grimacing and whatnot. They work on that. It's part of the skill, and so will you. And that's the fun part is that you will get to a place where you're running probably faster than you were before, more efficiently, and your breath will match your run. That's what's so cool about it. And part of that process is like I feel like a reconnection with yourself.
Yeah.
Because by the way, one quick thing, and people say this to me a lot. I like to run and talk with my friends. Okay. That's okay. Then you got to think, if I'm running and I can just carry on a conversation the whole time, how challenged have I really been in my run? So that's fine. I can talk and run too, but let's spend some time listening to your body. Be okay with your heart rate going up a little bit. Embrace it.
Yeah, definitely. And just to wrap this up, I wanted to reiterate one thing that we tend to forget, and it's something that comes up so much in mindset and so much in talking to people and coaching people is this idea of fear, that we are instinctively, right? We're animals at our core, right? Fight or flight is an actual response. And it comes from usually a thought of, I'm going to die. So your limbic response, everything, that happens, cortisol, all that comes out is actually very natural, but you're not about to die from you're not being chased by a cougar. If you are, that's a totally different scenario. I'm talking about you're in your neighborhood, nobody almost sideswiped you, dog didn't jump out and surprise you. I'm talking about the only reason why your heart rate just jumped is simply because you're falling. So take a moment to breathe into that and realize that that's really all you're feeling is a lack of breath. I think we've talked about this before, that fear is you really just holding your breath. So I challenge you to, when that happens, is to stop, take a moment. Don't stop. Okay, keep going and take a deeper breath.
Because if every time your heart rate goes up, you stop, then you're teaching yourself to stop. Instead, keep moving, even if you have to walk for a second, but let your body know, let your mind know, I'm doing this on purpose.
Right.
I want to be here. And then guess what? You'll start to relax because you're like, oh, I want to be here. You see, it's a conversation you're having. Have it with yourself. And I'm telling you, you will start to realize, oh my gosh, I can do this. And that's the feeling we want you to have.
Okay. And we will talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.